Rick, chicken hamburger.
Too much. How's the fireworks going?
Well,
Did you?
last meeting, which was in,
Feel so sorry for her.
October.
Oh, you should. We have to go
So,
through that for a long
Made,
time.
that
Put 5 miles on the
chairman was
bike
gonna
that
get
day?
a hold of Captain or the
Maybe
chief
40.
of Olathe
Or did you?
by November the 1st to
I
get
told
the
Linda.
It was a
whole
nice day, so I
None
get
of us
some
heard.
gas.
When's your next board meeting?
Next Tuesday.
I had it all cleaned
I,
up, so I said, better
I
close
just
it
lost
up.
faith. I mean, I've been on the board a year and a half. He's never ever called me about anything. He just,
Oh, well, she's.
The chairman?
talked
Yeah.
about
Is that Chris?
he just.
But I got out there on.
You're not gonna
Runs
cry
his own
tonight,
way?
nothing listen to
Yeah,
it.
he's got his own.
Maybe.
I
I
don't
got
think,
out there on.
if he I'm sure he
Went down one stretch, and then when I got to the exit, I saw that there was nobody.
Our
You better go-
fireman
better go
runs
put
here.
some
Radar, so I
Vaseline on your
turned around,
fingers.
over up
Old
on the next
McLaren,
stretch.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
And,
She'll
this
still
was
get
going on
My allergies.
before I even
Kill
got
'em.
on the board, you know, I took college place when we moved.
Right.
so
Twice a year.
I was
You wanted to, it was damn complicated.
Yeah, I got a
We don't have to
manual,
now,
though.
we
I
just
got a
got the
full
mill
service.
levy, and I tried to do
And I've
payroll
worked on
for
mine
a year
before, right.
to see if we
Need
could
to
make it
probably
on
check the
what we
brakes.
got before
I
we
just
go
take
asking
mine.
somebody.
Oh,
So that
good
first of all,
Lord.
our guys are worried about if they took us over, our contractors, would they get
I
rid
gotta
of
do
it?
the brakes.
Right,
They said,
right.
well, the board will still exist, well, yeah, what kind of power does the board have?
Yeah.
What is it?
You know, and you've got there's a lot of things that you've gotta figure out.
What?
you know.
It's a homemade Harley.
And I know
So you put pieces
Ronnie's
together.
upset about
Yeah.
that fire station.
Got an S&S stroker motor,
Yeah.
and soft tail. Used to have 5-speed, now just put
Mhm.
6
I
speed.
said, we can work
Baker?
out something, but,
Yeah.
not honest unknown, I said, you guys don't wanna be affiliated with that, so that should be your priority.
Good
That
thing.
long stroke
Oh my God.
doesn't
They
give
allow
any
me to
kind of
go
gas
at once
mileage
anyway,
at
so.
all, so.
So I don't know, see, I don't know who's in charge on something like that.
So what you've done is basically a bar
Does that
hop.
make sense?
No.
Yeah, because,
When I
it
first started,
Right.
things were going pretty good.
very,
until they
very
came up with that
uncomfortable.
proposal thing and.
Hi.
They got
How
this
you doing?
little bitty seat, it's about this big.
But anyway, I
Thank you.
guess
Yeah.
it'll work out one way or the other.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna modify the agenda so we can take care of it.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I don't
They
mind
make a
racing.
shotgun.
Well, we got.
You can hang out
Well, see,
after.
my
One of
soft
them
tail
is-
is
I'm glad you got the memo about the
set
bush here.
below the
Yeah.
line, and where it's
But
set,
anyway,
there's no suspension whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I got them both, one is the road crossing.
Let me know next time.
Okay. You went somewhere up to the north for some kind of tour, and you said if you known it was a tour. you
Hello,
could
Monty.
have done it.
How are you?
Lena's not here, would you tell her that Monica and I would
The
go?
reason I found out about it, because, you had
No,
told,
is it cold?
Dale Walker told me.
Hey, you need somebody to help you write your name?
My dad.
You
Thanksgiving week.
It'll disappear, it's crawled up somewhere.
Yeah.
Up there for a while.
Okay.
I mean, I retired in Shawnee.
Okay, yeah, so you look familiar.
Yeah, well, I'm
Can't
all
place it.
cowboys. I saw you on the store.
Oh, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yep, been back out here for about 6 years.
I want to amend the agenda so that we can take care of that. Multi-tech, yeah.
Yeah, I work on.
Uh-huh.
I have 7 o'clock.
Good talking to you.
It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the November 5th meeting of the City of DeSoto City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Lane.
Here.
Ron McDaniel.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Bill McDaniel.
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
And Mayor Meunier is absent.
Okay. All rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item of business tonight is a proclamation declaring October as American Indian Heritage Month. Whereas the history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as a part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August of 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, and whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, many area celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned. Now therefore, I, Timothy J. Meunier, Mayor of the City of DeSoto, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2015 as National American Indian Heritage Month in DeSoto. I encourage all citizens to join together and observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities to honor our great nation's American Indian heritage and legacy. And
Thank you very much.
all right. The next item is our consent agenda, and I would like to make a motion to modify the agenda to move item 4D, presentation of Commerce Rail Crossing project design, ahead of item 3A.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Now we can take a motion on the consent agenda, unless there's any questions.
There are some questions on the consent agenda. The flexible steel exhaust pipe from O'Reilly's, the check was printed 10/23, but I don't, is this the same one?
That's the same, we just received the invoice on that.
Okay. And what was bought for the from Suburban Lawn and Garden at their aquatic center landscaping? What was bought there?
Right. Let's check for.
35,407.
35,407.
And again, Bill, as we had talked, we can
answer any of these questions in advance. Bonnie or I can answer any of these in advance as well.
I'm aware of that.
Spirea plants, Barbary plants, Christophorus, and Forsythia.
Councilman Lane, did you have some other ones?
No, those are the ones I was, wanting to talk about, and,
I'd encourage you to, ask questions during the week, once you get the packet. If you'd asked, I think these could have been answered before the meeting and save all of our time.
I think, time is not an issue. It's, some of these things are things that I want the public to understand and see. And there are things on here that I think, now, that's the reason I wanted to be specific about those, because we have a temporary order in place to buy DeSoto. And if these were purchased during that time, since we made that motion, then they would be in violation of that, and I would not pay for them. But the Spirea plants, there is no place to buy a Spirea or a Barbary plant in the city of DeSoto. There are several places to buy them cheaper than Suburban Lawn and Garden. Several.
Any motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion when we approve the consent agenda.
I second. Roll call, please.
Lane,
yes.
Ron McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Bill McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next item is called public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business that's not listed on the agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted upon by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. Please stand and be recognized. Anyone wish to address the council? Okay. Seeing none, I will move on to item 4D, receive presentation on Commerce Rail Crossing project design.
Yes, council, thank you for adjusting the agenda to account for our guest tonight. With us here tonight is Sam Ramirez. He's with Multitech. They're the design engineers on the project. The project, as you know, will raise the rail and Commerce Drive at the intersection by Lexington Avenue. Really, all that we want to do tonight is get the council familiar and comfortable with the basic design elements that we have in place now, so that we can move forward to final completion of the design set, and with the intent of bidding this out over the winter months for a spring construction schedule. Basically, the design plans are at roughly a 30% set right now, which means, in essence, that the basic parameters of the design are in place. They have the layouts, and in your packet I did provide what's up on the screen here tonight, a plan and profile of Commerce Drive. Sam has tonight also a plan and profile of the rail that we're going to have to raise as well. You'll remember part of the agreement with Sunflower is that we can go ahead and raise the street, but we have to raise the rail as well. The one caveat they gave us was that we don't actually have to put the rail in place across the pavement at this time, but it has to be set up to allow for that in the future. So, in essence, we don't have the engineer's cost estimate at this point, but when we've done this before on preliminary estimates, the rail is going to cost almost as much as the street will, because we have to replace several thousand feet of the rail. It will basically start at Orchard Drive on the north, and by the time we tie back in, it'll be to the railroad, or to the K10 overpass. Our controlling point is that overpass. I think, Rick, you mentioned this in the past, and you turned out to be right. The control, we wanted to raise the rail up just as much as we could. The best of all worlds would be just a straight shot across there. Well, unfortunately, the K-10 overpass was set at an elevation to maintain a specified amount of clearance, the minimum clearance for that rail that was in existence when they built K-10. And we have to keep that same clearance. Actually, they've got about 6 inches or a foot to go. So we started there and went with a maximum grade from that point up to Commerce Drive. And for railroads, they're very sensitive about the grades. I think we're at 2%, which is.
We're at 1.9 right now, sorry.
Okay, no, yeah, chime in anytime. I guess I'm getting too deep into it. We need to have a reason for Sam to be here, so
Yeah.
I'll let you go ahead and take it from
Well,
there.
yeah, 2% is the maximum grade, allowable grade for any class 1 railroad. This track that we're dealing with is a branch track that allows connection from, I believe there's several spur tracks that are further north of Commerce Drive, and is some Army ammunition plant, as everyone must know here. So, in a nutshell, we cannot exceed 2%. We're at 1.9% just on the south side of the Commerce crossing, which got us to about 2 feet in vertical change for the existing crossing. So we've elevated the existing crossing to, can't remember the elevations right now, but we're at 2.5 feet.
Right, yeah, I think it's a little over 2.5 feet. We actually increased the elevation of Commerce. And what that does for us, if you look, I've got this displayed here. I know you can't see it really well, but this red line is the proposed contour of the road after it's done. The black line here is the way it is now. So the lowest point here is basically where the rails cross. So this distance here is about 2.5, a little over 2.5 feet. What we're trying to shoot for is a standard design for a collector road. They have standards for how steep this curve can be as it goes and sags, and we've nearly met that here with this scenario, which was our goal. So I think there will still be a low point. You know, you'll still go down. It's not going to be straight across, but you're not going to notice that there's this big dip there. The dip will be gone. The other elements that I did want to bring to your attention involve the islands here. There's a small island, a raised median, right in front of McDonald's, and then there's also a raised median at the intersection. The intent now with this plan is that those will both go away. There won't be any raised medians. This one, especially here in front of McDonald's, has been problematic. It exists, if you're westbound on Commerce, we have a lot of people hitting that median. I think it's just the way the lane sets. As you're going up over the hill, the median's right there, and it's not. I guess it's just not naturally in the correct
You're
spot.
gonna shift out right there.
Yeah, you kind of have to shift out.
And so if you're not paying attention, you keep going straight, and you'll run right
Yeah,
into
we
it.
replace that sign just almost on a monthly basis, and then when it snows, it's really bad because you can't really see it. So I think that's an improvement. The one out here at the intersection, it's not necessarily problematic, but we're going to have to remove it to change the profile of the road, and I don't think it's worth the money putting it back. So if it stays.
Where am I gonna stand to hand out papers on paper day?
We'll have a painted island there. We'll have to have something because we have a large expanse of pavement, so we'll have to be.
There will be striping. Yeah, that's a good point though.
We'll get you a barricade or something.
Because that's more important now than ever, with the Royals
It is.
winning the World
Next year,
Series.
everyone's gonna stop and give me $20 for
Money,
paper.
that's real money, yeah. Well, I'll stop there. I want to answer any questions you might have. Sam can probably answer more than I could about the design. But what we want to do is just present that to you, get everybody comfortable with the direction we're headed, so we can allow Multitech to finish up and get it.
I have questions for Sam.
Yes, sir.
I see the sanitary sewer manholes over here on the other side, and the 5-foot sidewalk, which I think is a great idea. Where is the water from the road gonna run? Is it just gonna crown off and run off to the sides?
It's gonna crown off at the center of the road, and then we have extended the existing pipes that are underneath the drainage. We're gonna extend them out. It's gonna lay right out at I believe it's a 4-to-1 slope, so it's walkable if somebody had to walk it or.
Mowable.
Yeah, mowable.
So,
Not gonna
but
curb it.
there's not gonna be.
Curb and gutter.
there's no curbs, no gutters on the street.
There is a purple.
Yeah, I think
That are all the way around.
what's
Yeah.
not shown here, and this is one of my comments in the
Yeah.
30% plans,
Okay.
was,
The storm drainage system?
yeah, I
Yes, sir,
anticipate
yeah.
the low point, the sump will be, you know, we'll have
340, I think, or so.
curb inlets. Yeah, somewhere in there. There'll be curb inlets at that low point.
Okay, yeah.
to
And then we'll
get-
just drop a manhole over that, east pipe and,
We'll probably take it, because it's all drained toward the south, we'll
Right.
probably take it out of the north curb inlet into the south
Right.
one, and then, I don't know if we tie into this.
I would probably
Or
just
just
drop a manhole, it's a fairly
just
shallow,
drop it
drop a
out.
manhole over that pipe and
Yeah.
have one outlet into the ditch, it'll
Yeah.
look cleaner and.
Yeah. We are gonna have two.
Not to tell you how to do your.
No, it sounds like you're spot on.
Yeah.
Key into it.
Yeah. You will see, there's two culverts under Commerce now. One's on the west side of the tracks and one's on the east side of the tracks. And I think we're gonna still have two, rather than putting a culvert under the tracks. I think we'll just stick with the
I think that's simple, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I just have sorry to interrupt, does the Federal Railroad, do they have any oversight over this project?
Well,
or-
yeah, you know, Multitech is very involved. One of their biggest clients is BNSF.
Right.
And BNSF owns the rail along there. And so they, every step of the way, have been coordinated with BNSF. And they started, my understanding is BNSF began reviewing the plans and you were working with Multitech, but then about halfway through that said, this isn't our line. We live and own this line.
That's right.
We don't have authority to tell you what to do. So it's that's kind of where BNSF.
That's it, yeah, it
Kind of
is,
stuff.
turns out it's a private entity who owns it, and,
Yeah.
So they separated themselves from it,
Yeah, yeah, and so what I'll do is coordinate with Sunflower. Of course, we'll give them, after I've got your input, provide this to Sunflower.
I would think Sunflower would want, like, BNSF's concurrence that this was an acceptable design.
And
for
in
the-
fact, yeah,
For the rail.
Yeah, their agreement.
that's
I
true. The
read it.
agreement
Yeah.
has those provisions in it. So it won't be new to BNSF.
So somehow we're gonna have to get BNSF to sign off on the.
You know, if they just flat one,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But
all we can do is just design the track so that, we're in compliance with all their rules.
And maybe that would be enough, just a certification from the engineer that we've designed it in
Right.
compliance with BNSF's, what are they, industrial spur lines or
yeah,
whatever.
that's the standard.
Designs.
And
Industrial stand for spur tracks. yeah.
Sam, I don't know if it was you and I talking, or maybe I was talking with Dave about, you know, sometimes BNSF won't approve plans. You know, they'll just say, you know, if
Yeah.
it's designed to our standards, then it's approved, but we're not gonna give you a stamp of approval before it's built, so.
Right.
So, Sam, this road, the road part is gonna be kind of separate from the rail part, or is the fill gonna go all the way back with the rail, or you just raise the rail and it has its own fill underneath? it?
Right, good question. We're gonna raise the road, we're gonna raise the track so that the track and the top of the surface of the road are at the same elevation. So that in the future, like Mike was talking about, we can tear out the existing road, come across, and everything's set.
So we'll put all the track in except for the actual crossing, we'll put the track that's there back
Yeah,
in and.
yeah.
Okay.
And what they
That's
actually
kind of
do
not
is
where I was going. Where I was
Road.
going was fall off the road. When the road falls off,
Yep.
it's gonna fall off and come back down, and then the track,
And then the track's gonna come back
will be
up.
separate,
Right.
coming back up. So there will be a creation of a steeper hill to the track, and you're gonna leave that ground basically existing.
2-to-1 off the track, and then either a 4 or 6-to-1 off the road.
So they basically gonna be two different projects.
Slopes, yeah. Right.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, Lori, any?
Nope.
Ron? Danny?
No.
I just have one quick comment, just to make sure that I did a quick look in the event we have to do a future rail crossing, I just checked the profile of Commerce to make sure that it is easily adapted to a future crossing.
Yeah,
It looked
yeah.
like it might be climbing a little bit too steep or too fast to the west. Because ideally you want 3 inches of rise in that 30 foot from each of those outer rails.
Okay, right, yeah.
And I don't believe that is a physical requirement, I think it's a recommended max, so I don't know that it's
Yeah.
that big of a deal, but I think on the east or the west leg, we might not be able to meet that, but I don't know that there's anything we can do about it, because to do
Yeah.
that, I think we'd have to raise the rail a little bit more, and doesn't sound like that's possible.
Yeah, that's not. One of the first iterations of this had the low point at the track, and that makes kind of it easy, because then the street's dead level at that point.
Right.
What you're saying here is the street isn't dead level at the top point of the crossing, so we need to make sure we're gonna be able to get the crossing in without having to
Reprofile in the
Reprofile the
future,
whole road.
to have a, a good cross. Just look at it to make sure that we can easily put in 20 years down the road, we can put a crossing in without another big project.
Mike, in 20 years, who's responsible for putting that new track in there if they were gonna extend it?
The way the agreement is now, it would be us.
Yeah.
But if it happens between now and 10 years from now, it's them.
It makes no sense.
It's almost
It
something.
does for them. It does for them.
It does for them because they don't see it happening within 10 years. I mean, I guess that's why, that's the part of the reason.
Right. Any action required from us?
No, not at all. Just wanted to,
So-
again, just familiarize you.
Okay.
Okay,
Forward,
thank you.
forward. All right, thanks, Mike. Thank you. So, moving on. 3A, old business, consider revisions to city's purchasing policy. Who's leading this off?
I will.
I mean, staff-wise.
Well, I prepared the revisions. I did reach out to, Bonnie, Mike had some input, let the department heads at least look to see what was gonna be put before the city council. So I think the document that you have in your packet, you can see where the revisions have been made. Those, that's what's on the table right now. As to just that document, the only input that is needed, for the document to be completed is a percentage that is highlighted. Sorry. But in making the revisions, essentially what I tried to do was capture what appeared to be a majority consensus, understanding that, even with those changes, there was still some disagreement, but it seemed like there was a majority consensus on the changes that were made. And then there were some just sort of housekeeping. What I did was, for example, I talked to Bonnie about, what we do in practice day to day, like with the petty cash, and I just want to make sure this policy matched exactly what we're doing. So, what's in the book is actually consistent with practice, and
Okay.
So. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. It has been a while since we last talked about this, but.
The blue differentiates what, your practice?
No, the blue was either maybe changes that were later made after the red, or maybe.
I think there's different
Mike-
authors.
Mike may have
Yeah.
made some of those revisions, so it's not, that's all it is. It's just showing a revision.
Okay,
Mr. President,
yep.
I make a motion to not approve the ordinance as written and move to table the discussion until such time as the governing body has had its workshop that was canceled.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion, I would like to comment on that. I think the reason I don't see a reason to have a workshop if we can do it in a regular meeting. The reason we were doing the workshop was timing, as I recall, to get it, accelerated. I don't know what we can accomplish in a workshop that we can't accomplish right here, right now.
Well, if you wanna do it right now, when there's, I think it's gonna take us a considerable amount of time.
I'm not
Time
sure-
isn't an issue.
I'm not sure that you
But
can
if
get it
time's not an
done
issue,
in 2 workshops. I think we're that far apart.
I guess, we have a motion and a second. Did you
I
have any
comment the
comments?
same, I mean, I did not understand why we didn't talk about it last time, because we knew it was gonna be. We've had 2-3 weeks now since the last time to see this and know exactly what was gonna be presented to us. I'm not sure a workshop is necessary when we're right here to discuss it. It's the same people gonna be discussing the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't know
that
why a
was,
workshop
that was
is
it,
needed.
exactly.
Okay.
The information was presented, we didn't have time to review it, and that was the idea of the workshop, was to give us time to review the document that was presented, before the next meeting, so.
Okay, well, what staff has put together is not what the majority of the governing body wanted on or in the purchasing policy. That's why we need to have more discussion on it. And
That's why we have time tonight, right? I think we have a motion and a second.
Who seconded that?
Ron
I did.
McDaniel seconded. So we need to deal with that motion and second, and then we can move on to. And the motion, let's repeat it. Did you get the motion, Patrick?
Yeah, I just put motion by Bill McDaniel to table the discussion until there's time for a workshop.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Paraphrase
All right.
what you said.
Roll call?
Lane,
yes.
Ron McDaniel.
Yes.
Walker,
No?
Bill McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdoch.
No,
Motion carries.
Okay, so this is tabled.
maybe we'll get it done in the next 5 years, huh? I might not be on council anymore when this thing's done.
I had some information that I wanted to present, I spent some time, when we got this document, spent a lot of additional time. Actually, I'd spent a lot of time before we got the document, when we started talking about it, compiling information and gathering my thoughts, and over the last week and a half, I kind of condensed those into a document that I'd hoped to share with everybody tonight, which I may go ahead and do, but my personal opinion is that we have a good purchasing policy. What we need to add to that, if we choose to, is a section that addresses a local preference, and any exercise to go through line by line or to modify things that have worked well in the past is a wasted effort that's not gonna yield any benefit to the city or to our staff and let anything run more efficiently. So I think if we could look at it, that's my take on it, but I will share what I put together, what I defined as the preference criteria. If you would take one and pass one down. Do you need one, Patrick, for the minutes? I got another one.
Yeah, that'd be
All
great,
right.
thanks.
And I think my understanding that the goal is to give a local preference. I think what I came up with here is a policy and procedure that provides that local preference, but also protects the city from paying overly inflated prices for goods and services. So it protects the city, and it provides the local preference.
I'm surprised, actually, that of the 5 of us, there's only 2 of us that were ready to discuss this tonight. And the only 3 that are against it are the ones that supposedly are against this way of looking at this. And I'm just concerned that there's discussion about this going on outside of here. Because, we were here, it's been on the minutes, we're ready to discuss it. I do not understand how it could be on the minutes when you've seen this a week ago, and we're not ready to discuss the issue. It's disappointing. It's like you wanna have it in a workshop, so it's not on camera. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
That's why we need a workshop, is because you don't get it.
No, I don't
I don't
get
get why you don't wanna
I don't
discuss it
get why you
tonight.
don't wanna discuss it. I get the policy.
Because there's a lot of other things on the agenda that we need to get through tonight, and I don't think we can get through this and come to the right compromise and do it in a fashion that is in the best interest of the businesses and contractors of the city of DeSoto.
I understand a little bit of where you're coming from, but I think from what you just said, we are 180 degrees apart. If you're looking at our main responsibility to look out for the contractors and businesses, I think you're missing the mark on what your job is here as a council person, because your job is to look out for the citizens of the city. And
Right.
that's job one.
Right. And how do those citizens benefit if there are no businesses or contractors paying in property tax or receiving sales tax in this city? How do we make money, Rick? How does the city make money? Tell me.
The purchases
I
that
mean,
we
the
can.
franchise fees and the property tax, the excise tax, all the sales tax, all the things that go involved with stuff that is important in the city of DeSoto is very, very important to the citizens of DeSoto.
You know, that's true, Bill, but, you know, it's almost like it's better to be preaching that and living that and setting an example to that, to the community out there, and not to a couple of businesses that this affects as far as the city doing it. What you're forgetting is the future of what a policy, what you want as a policy could mean for the city of DeSoto in the future. And those businesses out there can't rely just on what the city is purchasing and doing. And I'm all for setting a good example. Otherwise, I would have said, let's not put this local thing in here at all. But there's gotta be a point too where you're fiscally responsible for the taxpayers' money. And that's all we're saying is a policy, this compared to what you wanna see in it, is it's the taxpayers' money is right here. I'm gonna have to raise their tax if you wanna spend more by buying local, and that doesn't make sense. The businesses here aren't relying just on the city of DeSoto purchases to keep themselves open. It's what everybody out there in the city of DeSoto is doing and buying. And I get that you probably buy everything local here.
I
But
can't
it's
buy
a-
everything
it's-
local here,
It's,
just
it's a
like the
matter
city can.
of living that out there and working through the chamber and working through with businesses to figure out how we get more local purchases going on. Not putting that burden on the taxpayers' dollars by doing it through just the city purchases. And that's what you know, yes, if a business closed down, we're losing their tax money. Only their property tax money, but
Only
the
their
property
sales tax
tax
money.
money, we're not losing their sales tax money, yeah, we're losing it, I get that. But that isn't it's not because the city didn't buy things from them that they're losing that, it's because everyone else in town didn't buy from them. So you're in big support of the auto supply store here in town, and I get that.
Well, wait just a minute. That is one of probably 25 businesses that are in DeSoto that I can name. There's also doctor's offices, there's also physical therapists
But
in
those are
town.
besides the point of the city.
No, they're
having
not
any-
beside. We could set up programs to use the facilities that we have.
Well, and that's all great, but that has nothing to do with this policy, this purchase policy right
This
here.
purchase policy is going to actually send business to them from the city. I've never said, not one time, that if we can't buy it in DeSoto, buy someplace else. It's just like the suburban lawn thing. There
I
are
get it, you don't have to explain the
25
detail of that, I
things.
understand
Okay.
that, I understand you can't buy a tree in town, I understand that. What I don't understand is why you're not willing to make this, we can't talk about it tonight,
Right, we
you know,
tabled it, so.
We tabled it.
I
But
guess the
that
next
is what I
item
don't
would be to
understand.
find a date for a work session. And I'll just make a statement regarding work sessions. Now that if the sole reason for having it in a work session is to avoid discussing it transparently, then I am not in favor at all of having it in a work session. I don't agree with that. I think that we need to conduct our business as transparently as possible. We get a few people up here, and we get a few more on the camera, and when we go to a work session, we've eliminated those that want to watch through the internet, and probably half of what would come here for a regular meeting. So I think that any business we can do, we need to do in a regular meeting so that we can be as transparent as possible.
Do we move on?
Well, 2 weeks ago, we all agreed to have a work session. We called the work session off for a baseball game. Baseball game is more important than a work session to do this project. Let's get on with it. Let's have the work session. Let 5 of us do it. And it had not take us very long to do it, but let's get on with it and have a work session. I know you two guys don't like it, but the 3 of us do. We just voted to do that. So let's do it. I'm tired of sitting here arguing. You two arguing against him and me.
I'm not arguing, I'm just arguing against doing it out of a public, why can't we do it tonight if it's
A
not
work
gonna take any
session is
time?
open, it's an open forum, but people can come in anytime they want to. And we'll have to post it on the door like.
I will
like
probably
we
won't have
advertise
availability
everything
to do a
else.
work session until after the first of the year, so. And I think I've stated, I don't think there's a point in doing it in a work session, so. If we can't do it tonight, then let's schedule a light agenda for the next regular meeting. We can do that.
We do have a work session prior to the next
We
meeting.
could have it right before the meeting.
We have a previously scheduled
fire
work session
department's
with the fire.
coming.
That's all right. We'll
district.
do the next meeting.
But we can do it.
Hey, I wanted to say this, and I'm not gonna say no more about this. Now, just what Patrick said, he went to our staff. Our staff are the ones that are telling us what we're gonna do. We set the policy, and we vote on it, and then let them take care of that. Do it that way we set it. Not the way our city administrator does it, not the way our purchasing people do it. It's what we set up. I'm done now. Let's have a work session before a meeting and get on with it. I know Lori has to work until 6 o'clock, but we can work at 5 minutes or 10 minutes after 6 when she can get here, because I understand she has to work.
Well, if the meeting's starting at 7, that doesn't give me any time.
I just, I'm positive.
I think
Well,
moving on with this meeting, we discussed it. I got.
Can I just clarify one thing? My only purpose in going to staff was, I understand just over the last months, council's concern about they want purchasing done a particular way. So my purpose in reaching out to staff was to say, look, this is what a majority of the council wants to do in this document, and look through the entire document. If you're not doing this, then let me know, because I just anticipated if you pass this purchasing policy and then a month down the road you find out that, you know, Bonnie or somebody else is doing something that's not in the policy, that would be of grave concern to you. So that was my purpose of reaching out to staff, to make sure that it wasn't, I didn't take the, different ideas from the staff and stick it in here, and now I'm saying it's what you guys agreed to. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. I guess we'll come back to this during maybe your time then.
Okay.
New business, 4A, consider bids for well improvements for the Sunflower Water Treatment Plant. Right.
Yes, council, we have several items to consider tonight. We've been busy putting out requests for bids, getting in different bids for different components of the improvements. These that we're be discussing here tonight are all part of the $3.2 million bond issue that we issued this summer. There are several of them, and I actually added one to this. On Monday I sent an email for the last one, so I'll be referencing that as well. Most of these, actually I think all of these, relate to the well field, and I think everybody's kind of familiar with where the well field is, what the well field is, but I did include in the staff report an exhibit of the existing well field. When the plant was built, there's 12 wells that were drilled. 6 of them are on the north side of the river in Leavenworth County, and 6 of them are on the south side. And through our negotiations with Sunflower Redevelopment, we got control of and water rights to 6 of those 12. 3 of our wells are on the north side of the river, and 3 are on the south. And they're here. I've shown them on the map here. These are the green dots. So on the north side, we currently have water rights and operate wells 8, 9, and 10. And on the south side, we have water rights to wells 3, 4, and 6. We operate 3 and 6. Well 4 has not been operational since sometime in the mid-80s. So that's kind of where we're talking about. And when I talk about the well field, I didn't just want to assume that everybody kind of knew about that. The first thing that we bid, the first thing on the agenda is SCADA controls for each of those 6 wells. This will allow us to operate the wells from the water treatment plant, which is several miles away. It's really an operational hindrance to us right now because in order to start the plant running, we turn it off every night, nearly every night. We shut the plant down and we have to start it back up in the morning. And each time we do that, the operator has to get in his truck, leave the Army base, drive down here to sometimes to Leavenworth County, and actually go throw a switch in the building in each well. So maybe we're operating 2 or 3 that day. The round trip sometimes takes 30, 45 minutes, even more in bad weather. And by the time he throws the switch and then goes and does the other wells, he's got to get back to the plant because there's water going through the plant. And he's got to operate and he's got to do, so it's really a problem. So we understood this and we issued money for bonds for a SCADA system. And SCADA is basically a fancy way of saying we're going to be able to operate them remotely. This type of system, every vendor has kind of proprietary software, proprietary components. They have their own way of doing it, so it wasn't really possible to get a apples to apples competitive bid. So what we did is we gave the vendors our general operating parameters and we asked them to give us a proposal. And so we looked through all those proposals. We got 3 of them. One was from Microcom, one was from JCI, and the last was from HOA Solutions. The lowest upfront cost was from JCI in the amount of $44,560. The trouble with that bid is that it requires a data management agreement and special software that we would have to sign on to them that costs about $5,000 a year. So if you pay that over, year after year, those costs add up. And we didn't really want to be reliant on a third-party vendor to kind of operate our wells. The next lowest bid was from Microcom in the amount of $59,609. This system doesn't require a separate license fee. It is radio based, so we won't have another system is cell phone based, so you have these cell phone plans each month that you have to keep up. This one's radio, so they'd have an antenna and some control components at each of the 6 wellheads. They'll have a repeater antenna on the downtown water tower, and then of course an antenna at the water plant and basically a desktop computer at the water plant as well.
Now they were number 2, bid 2?
They were the second low in terms of upfront cost. But if you look
Microcom.
Yeah, Microcom.
But in 4 years?
If you look at a 4-year, 5-year plan,
5 years.
the other one's going to be more.
Right.
Yeah. And we already have the radio licenses if it's going to be required to run the system. The last component of this will be some monitoring components for the new water tower that we plan to put up. So there's nothing really to operate there, but we'll be able to see the level in that tower from there.
On that same system?
Yeah, on this system. It'll be, right there at one desktop computer at the water plant.
Mike, putting the radio system in, how's that gonna fare down the road as far as being, efficient data-wise? I mean, I don't wanna pay a monthly fee. I would rather pay more upfront than that ongoing fee. But what about in the future longevity of the different types of wells or pumps that we may have to replace? How is that going to be affected that away. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
in
like
terms
a-
of-
A cell phone, you know,
Yeah.
today, you buy a Galaxy, whatever, today and tomorrow, the same phone, does twice as many things, but it makes his phone obsolete
Right.
so.
Well, kind of in terms of like future proofing what you get now, you know, you buy the latest and greatest best thing and you hope that those, you know, that those can communicate with future stuff you might. I don't know how to completely future-proof stuff like that. You know, it's a radio system, so there won't be any data plans or.
Current with
Yeah.
what's going on
It is
now.
current,
Yeah.
and the thing, what we do have at each well are new variable frequency drives. When we first got the wells, they were just on motor starters, and so we've switched them over to VFDs, and the VFDs are integrated with the control system, so in terms of what's there already is basically kind of the best technology that you can have.
So
Now,
it's
next.
gonna be compatible with
Yeah,
what
it's
we've
compatible
upgraded
now,
to
right,
already.
right. Now, no one can promise you that there won't be some great thing in the future come up
Right,
that's way
right,
better, but,
right.
you
Well,
know.
that great thing would probably cost more money anyway, but.
Yeah, there's no reason to think that this system won't last for 20 years, which is not what you can expect from, you know, technology like this. So we recommend selecting Microcom and authorizing the amount of $59,609. I do have a suggested motion there on page 2 of the statute.
Any more questions for Mike regarding this first bid item? All
I'll
right.
make a motion toward the well control system project for Microcom of Olathe, Kansas, in the amount of $59,609, and authorize the city administrator to sign the proposal dated October 2nd, 2015.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Without further
I didn't
discussion.
hear that motion very well.
You didn't hear it?
No.
Okay. It's a motion to award to Microcom for $59,609. It's the suggested motion in the.
Oh, okay.
She read the suggested motion
Oh,
in the
okay,
presentation. Roll call, please.
Bill McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Ron McDaniel,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, you're still on?
Okay, I'm still on. The next one on the list is well 9 repairs. This isn't something we talked about specifically when we were setting up the bond issue, but well 9 again is one of those on the north side of the river. It's one of our better producing wells. We started noticing about 6 months ago some sand in the well casing itself. And if you remember earlier in the year, we had to authorize some funding because when they cameraed the well, the bottom portion of it was filled with sand. And so we had to have a special procedure to get that sand out and camera the rest of that line. What we found was that each one of these wells has a casing pipe that's just a steel pipe that goes down, and then there's screens at the bottom of it. The screens are fine, but the casing pipe is just rotted away in several locations.
It's its own screen, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of a screen by itself, yeah. And it's just not salvageable. So the repair is, you know, the best, most efficient way to do this is just to reline the casing pipe all the way down to the screens. So in order to do that, we got 2 bids for that work. The low bidder was Brock T. Well and Pump. They're in North Kansas City. The amount of $17,674. The other bid was from Alliance Pump. It was a little bit higher, but in the ballpark. So we think those bids are competitive. Again, we would have gotten another bid, but you know, we tried to get 3 and we just couldn't find anybody to give us a bid. This is one we need well 9, and so I didn't want to delay any further with these improvements. So there's a suggested motion if you agree with that on the bottom of page 2.
Questions for Mike on the well 9 lining? If not, somebody want to make a motion?
I move we award well 9 lining improvements to Broad Key Well and Pump of North Kansas City, Missouri, in the amount of $17,674, and authorize the city administrator to sign their proposal dated October 9th, 2015.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right, second by Ron McDaniel. Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Bill McDaniel,
Yes.
Ron McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, the next item on page 3 of the staff report is well 4. I mentioned earlier, well 4 is one that we've never operated. It was actually one of 2 wells on the south side of the river that the Army completely rehabbed in the mid-'80s, I think maybe the late '80s. They completely re-drilled the well, new screens, big 30-inch stainless steel screens that are just awesome. Those are the ones that, if you're familiar with the area, if you go down there, all the well houses are concrete pedestal structures with kind of ugly white buildings on top. These 2 are the mushroom type. They're a steel riser with kind of a steel can that looks kind of like a can up on top. The Army did that in the late '80s and operated them for a couple months or a year, and then just decommissioned them. So what we want to do is bring well 4 back into service. And because it hasn't run for so long, it's going to need a chemical injection treatment that's kind of above and beyond anything that we would normally do. It's a high velocity 2-step chemical injection treatment that Doug and I worked on the specifications for. We also would need to, of course, replace the pump and the all the electrical components inside the well. So we got bids for that work. Again, 2 bids. In this case, Broctie was also low, in the amount of $44,000 or $44,820. They did also have in their bid, they had an option for another type of pump that we're not crazy about, and it's more expensive. So we're going to go with a less costly option pump. If the council's okay with this, this will allow us. We will still need to do some transformer equipment, set of poles, set of transformer, but Eudora is going to help our guys do that part. And after this, along with the control components that were authorized earlier, hopefully bring well 4 back up into service. There's no reason to believe it wouldn't be our best producing well. So if you're okay with that plan, I suggested a motion on page 3 of the staff.
Mike, was this a designated plan, bringing this back up when we put together the bond issue? Or is this something that we need, or is it something that we're looking for down the road to make the other pumps idle?
No, it is definitely something we need, and it was listed specifically in the plan for the bond issue to bring, as part of it's one project. Wellfield improvements had kind of one sub-budget number, but this was part of it.
Any other questions for Mike?
I make a motion, we award well 4 improvements to Broctie Well and Pump in North Kansas City, Missouri, in the amount of $44,820, and authorize the city administrator to sign the proposal dated October 12th, 2015.
I'll second your motion.
One second.
All right, Ron seconds. Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Ron McDaniel.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Bill McDaniel.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, council, and the tag-on item for the wells was it's not in the staff report. I emailed it earlier in the week. This will get, I don't know if you remember, a few meetings ago, we authorized about $11,400 to purchase new meters at each one of the wells. And the meters are needed to remain compliant with the Division of Water Resources requirements for our water rights. We purchased those meters, we got those meters in, we need those installed now. And there's quite a bit of plumbing work to do, connection with that. So we got 3 bids for that work. The low bid was Tedrow Construction at $1,200 a well. So total for 5 wells is $6,000. We'll also need to put a meter in well 4. This doesn't include the meter installed in well 4 because it's different than the rest, so we didn't bid it yet. But this will get 5 of the 6 wells installed. So if you're okay with this, if I could just get a motion to accept the bid from Tedrow for $6,000.
Everyone will make that motion?
Sure. I make a motion, we accept the bid from Tedrow in the amount of $6,000 for
Installation of meters at the
meters at the wells.
Okay. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Councilman Ron McDaniel. Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Ron McDaniel.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Bill McDaniel.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Item 4B, discuss utility rate study and potential water and sewer rate increases. Is this you, Mike?
Yes, it is. This is not a fun conversation to have, but I think one that we all knew was coming, at least specifically on the water side. When we issued the bonds this year, the $3.2 million, we understood that would come along with a rate increase, and so what we've done is a study of the existing revenues, the existing water user customer base profile, and the water fund projections going out a number of years to try and establish some sort of a rate plan that would allow us to fully fund the department and fully fund the debt service that will be incurred starting in 2016 for the bonds we just issued. We also did a similar thing for the sewer system. We didn't issue any big bonds this year or recently in the sewer department, but thought if we were doing this for the water, we should also do it for the sewer. Look at those fund projections multiple years in the future and make sure that we're going to maintain healthy fund balances moving forward. Without belaboring the presentation here, I want to understand. There's a lot we could talk about, a lot I could explain, but there's a lot of numbers that tend to bore people. So I want to hit the highlights and invite you to stop me and ask any questions. And of course, afterward, if I've lost somebody, we can address those as we go along. When we look at the debt service the debt restructuring essentially that we did this spring or this summer, you'll remember that it included a good chunk of debt from the sewer the sewer treatment plant bond that we issued in 2006. We restructured that debt and added the $3.2 million plus or minus for the water into one big debt schedule, and it has yearly debt service obligations of somewhere in the mid 800,000s. For 2016, that total obligation is going to be about 843,000. It goes down a little bit in 2017 to 839,000. That's broken out between water and sewer, and most of it's in the sewer. The sewer obligation, if you want to look at that from the sewer fund, is about 611,000, and next year from the water fund, it's almost 232,000. That's how that breaks out. Historically, for the water fund, at least for the last 10 or 15 years, the water fund has fully paid for itself and fully paid for all debt service that it has incurred. The sewer fund, on the other hand, hasn't. When we issued the bonds for the sewer treatment plant, it was about $9 million in bonds to build that plant. When those bonds came due, I think we had made some assumptions about growth that didn't come to be. We were assuming 50 building permits every year continuing after, just like had been for the previous 10. That didn't happen. So there was a conscious decision that the sewer fund, the sewer revenues, just couldn't reasonably make this debt service. And before we refinanced it was close to $700,000. And so what was decided then, several budget cycles ago, was that the sewer fund was going to pay $70,000 into the debt service fund each year. And it looks like, now I didn't go research minutes, but it looks like $70,000 has been transferred from the sewer fund into the debt service for the last 5 years at least. And that's about 10% of the debt service of the bond. So, maybe at some point somebody decided, just can't do it to people, let's just put a token 10% in there and move on. So we've kind of just moved on like that for several years, with the general fund paying the vast majority of that sewer debt, which is fine. We issue mill levies for that, and those go to pay off the debt, and the bondholders are happy. But the philosophical problem with that is that not all of our tax base is on the sewer system. If we had 100% of the citizens in DeSoto on sewer, it really wouldn't, it'd just be one or the other, but we don't. We have a significant population in DeSoto that isn't on the sewer or water, but is still paying for the sewer plant. So it's a discussion I think worth having, and maybe it's a discussion for another time, but I did want to put something in this report, in this exercise, to be able to address that. So I want to talk about the tables. We got several tables that are attached to the staff report. The first two tables, tables
Page
one.
is that, Mike?
If you just look at the end of page 5 of the staff report, table 1A is attached to it. So it'd be the 6th page in that packet. Table 1A are water fund projections. These are the yearly total fund projections, started in 2014 and it goes out to 2024. So 10 years is longer than we typically look at things like this. I know it's a little small and.
I was gonna say, Mike, I think you tried to get smaller font, didn't you?
I had to get these dang readers out, Mike. and
I
haven't been using them.
apologize. It was either that or have
Here,
11 by
hold it over here for
17
you.
pages. Just a quick explanation of how this table is set up, because the sewer is exactly the same. So I've got lines and columns shown, line numbers, column numbers are shown. If you look at line 2 is the beginning balance in the fund. So for 2014, the beginning balance in the water fund was $391,000. The beginning balance in 2015 was $412,000. And we project the 2016 budget to be $432,000. Those are beginning year balances in the fund. The fourth line and the line that's in red are the rate increases that are going to be needed to keep the fund balance as I have it shown going out multiple years. If you look down in the column to line 63 and 64, you have the transfer to debt service, which for the water fund has just been the transfers that we've made historically. So for 2016, that $150,275, that's what's in the 2016 budget, and that's just continued forward for future years. The new debt that's highlighted in line 64, that number is the number from the previous table I showed you. This is the water department's portion of the debt service from those bonds, the $3.2 million. So, you know, for 2016, we've got a $231,998 obligation from the water fund. So if you plug that number in there, you get an ending balance of $249,000. Well, the only way you get to $249,000 is you increase the water revenues, the utility revenue fees, and those are water service charges are line 92. If you look down, it's bolded toward the bottom. I'm sorry that it's so small on your version. Line 92 are the water service charge. These are the revenues that we get from monthly water bills from all of our customers. There are other revenues as well, but they pale in comparison to this one. And this is the one that you adjust when you adjust the water rates. So if you look at this scenario for 2016, which is the third column, we're going to need $1.381 million in revenues from the water. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so what that equates to, if you look back up the top at line 4, that's a 10% increase in the water rates that we would get if we don't increase the rate. So 10% more in total revenues that we need for next year. Similarly, in 2017, it's another 8, and in 2018 it's 6% before it kind of levels off in 2019 to the 4 and 4. You know, once you get down to the 4% range, that's almost an inflationary thing, because what we did with these projections going out past 2016 is we assumed a 2% inflationary increase in the budget items going forward. So once you get down to 4 or so, that's kind of just inflationary. That's just
And this
noise.
is just the water.
This is just water. The sewer situation then, in a similar way, is a bit rosier, but it's only because, you know, we're looking at a 4% increase for next year, and then a 4, and then it's kind of, you know, it's kind of just an inflationary number. But really, that 4% is only because the assumption I made about new debt. So we keep, if you look at line, I'm on table 2B now, if you look at lines 44 and 45, line 44 is the transfer to debt service. That's the $70,000 from the sewer fund that we've just been doing because I think we made the decision some point years ago to just do that. I'm suggesting that we might double that in the next 2 years. So for next year, I'm saying an additional 35,000 and then 70,000. Just to kind of make some token effort to maybe we're still at only 140 of 600,000 that is really the obligation. So if you look at the sewer fund, if you don't do that, basically if you don't want to increase the sewer fund, then the needed rate increases are really just inflationary. So on the sewer fund, it's much more stable, but only because we haven't issued any debt and we're not paying for the debt we got. So that makes a lot of things easier. Is everybody with me so far? So for if you just look at the snapshot for next year, because that's kind of what we want to do right now. We want to know what we got to do next year and have some plan for the out years. We'll need a 10% increase in sewer and a 4% increase. 10% increase in water, 4% increase in sewer for next year.
And for the average consumer in DeSoto, just a regular old citizen like myself.
Yeah.
What does that relate to in my $50 to $75 a month fee?
10%. Yeah.
So five to
So
$7.
it'd be 5 to 7. Yeah.
So everybody's going to pay $5 to $10 more a month.
Well, that's kind of the next part of the analysis. Table 2A is just the next one after the one you just looked at. This is an analysis of the existing rate structure and what people pay based on how much water they use. The other thing that's included in this table is a breakdown of the number of system users in each one of these categories. So if you look at line 9 on that table 2A, column 1 says from gallons a month, and then column 2 says to gallons a month. So if you use between 0 and 1,000 gallons a month, we've got about 235 people in town that are in that category. And that number is based on an average of 2013 and 2014 water bills. You see that the rest of the columns there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, those are total revenues of all 235 users in that category. But if you look at the far right, there's that separated box over on the far right, and I don't have column numbers over there, I should have. Their total monthly bill is $19.27. And that makes sense because in this rate structure, your base charge is $19.27, and until you use 1,500 gallons, that's all you pay. Unless you use over 1,500 gallons, that's when you get into the cost per gallon. So in that first usage category, their monthly bill is $19.27. So you can see the rest of the usage categories, lines 10 through 23, and you can see the number of people in each one of those usage categories. So you can see the vast majority of our users are between 0 and say 5,000 or 6,000 gallons a month. Over that, the numbers tail off significantly. We've also broken out major users. Anybody using above 50,000 gallons a month on average, I call them major users. And those are people like Clearview City is by double, our largest user. The next, Intervet, Rig Pacific, you can see the list there. I mean, they're familiar names there that use a lot of water. So you can see what their monthly bill is. Clearview City's monthly bill is $11,000 on average. It's probably 1.5 times that during the summer. So that's the existing rate structure. So you can see kind of what people are paying, what your monthly bill is, and if you pay a water bill, you probably already know this. Table 2B is the same thing on sewer rates. So I'm not going to, it's just the same thing, it's just with the sewer base. Interestingly, we've got about 1,600 water customers on our system, and we have about 1,130 sewer customers on our system. So the difference there is the people who have DeSoto water that aren't on DeSoto sewer.
Could you repeat that number for water?
Water, we have 1,600 water customers.
1,600
and sewer customers, we have 1,130.
And those totals are on the bottom of column 3 on both of those tables.
Okay. So we know what people are paying now. We know what the structure of users are at this point. We also know that we need 10% more in total revenue from water and from sewer. So what I've done in tables 3A through F, or whatever, however many tables 3 I have, are presented some alternatives to increasing the rate structure such that we get our needed 10% revenue increase. So table 3A, for instance, is water alternative number 1. In this scenario, we're just increasing the base fee, and I'm not increasing any of those usage categories at all. If we want to generate another 10% in water revenue just by increasing the base fee has to go from $19 and some up to $26.75. And so this one impacts the lower users the most. You know, the major user, Clearview City, won't notice that at all. It's only a couple bucks. But it'll, you know, it's quite an increase to people who just pay the monthly minimum. It's, on a percentage basis, it's quite an increase to them. Table 3B is the same scenario. We're just increasing the base, but this is for sewer. So the sewer base fee goes from, where it is now, I forgot, goes up to $15.40.
1457.
What was it prior?
1457.
$14.57.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not so bad. We're only looking at 4%, really. Table 3, and you know, I won't belabor any of these. Table 3C is for water. In this scenario, we're leaving the base fee alone in 1927, but I'm just increasing the usage fee category. So from the usage between 1,500 and 4,500 gallons, that has increased to $8.10 per 1,000 gallons. Similar, the next tier, 4,500 to 8,500, that's gone up to $8.40, and then the highest tier goes up to $8.90. Again, to just generate the additional 10%. This scenario doesn't impact the lower end users, you know, the people using very little water, but pretty significantly impacts the high end users. Clearview City, for instance, you know, their bill goes up by more than $1,000. Table 3D is that same, just increasing the usage fee for sewer. And then table 3E, I've increased both the base fee and the usage fee increase to get the extra 10%. 3E is for water, 3F is for sewer. So without belaboring those, table 4 is a summary of just the water increase stuff. And this is the one I think where it's easy to compare. We can see what it is now, what it will be, percentage increases. There's even a little chart on this thing. So the water rate alternative summary at the top of page 3. These are, you can see the gallon breakouts, the existing rates, then table 3A is the base rate increase only. That's the rate structure. So 3A, 3, the C, and E. Those are the 3 alternatives for the water. You can see how those impact the customers here. Down that second box on there has, you know, your usage categories. So if you use 3,000 gallons of water a month, your bill is going to be $25.33. Under scenario 1, that goes up to $32.81. Scenario 2, $27.37, and scenario 3, $29.20. So you can see, I'm not going to read all those numbers, but this chart over here on the right kind of shows the 3 scenarios, and this is a percentage increase per usage category. So if you look at the scenario on table 3A, we're just increasing the base rate. You can see this is like a 38% increase for those people that don't use much water. And it goes down to basically a 0% increase for the major users. Because like we talked about, Clearview's already paying $11,000. And you can see how this impacts the other ratepayers as well. Table 5 is the same thing for a sewer, but of note here, the maximum percentage is 6, whereas the one on the water is, you know, it's up there at 45. So the charts kind of look the same, but we're magnitudes difference. So the sewer alternatives, again, this chart kind of tells you where you would be in each one of those scenarios. Table 6 I did just to give you sort of a feel for what our rate increases have been over the last 15 years and then over the last 7 years. These are all the rate structures for water and sewer that we've had. We pulled fee resolutions dating back to 2001 and then the current ones. The right two columns are average annual increase. Look to be for the water, they're somewhere between 2.8 and 4.5% annual over the full 15 years. If you just look over the last 7 years, they're right at about 3. And similar on the sewer, they're a little bit more if you look back 15, but then over the last 7, they're right at about 2.7. So those are sort of inflationary numbers. And I think the reason that they're only inflationary numbers is because we've issued debt for the sewer, but sewer hasn't been paying for debt, and we're just now issuing debt for water. So that's kind of the long version, the short version of a long story. The summary is that if we want to maintain these fund balances in a positive situation, and I will note, if you look at table 1A that I've got up here, these fund balances as a percentage of the total operating expenses, even with this 10% increase and 8% next year, our fund balances get down to 8% of the total operating expenses. That's low. That's real low. We generally want that number at about 20, which it does get back to if you just extend this on out. If you just keep this up, it does rebound at the end of the year. By 2023, it seems like a long way off. We're back at 20%, but that's no new debt too. So there might be new debt issue. So it's not a fun situation. I think we all knew it was coming, but that is as best as we can, as best as we can estimate at this point. That's what we need to do. So the policy discussions for you are, first, do we want to do any more with sewer in terms of debt service than we've already been doing, in light of what we need to do with water? 2, how comfortable are we with these sorts of fund balance targets? That's not a very high target to me. And then 3, we know we need 10%. There's a million ways to get to 10% increase. How do we want to do that? I think what we've done in the past is we've never just said base, we've never just said rate. We've always got something in the middle, and I think something in the middle would be prudent now as well. So we would need to do this in time for 2016 for this whole analysis to hold water. So I'll stop there.
The whole problem, Mike, is everybody's been ignoring it up to this point. I mean, if there wasn't such a significant jump to take now, it wouldn't be so bad. But, you put a significant jump, especially if you use one of the tables that puts it on the low-end people who probably can't afford it.
We're just doing it 4% about every year.
Yeah, we
just haven't issued debt. I mean, we haven't had the need for a major increase because we haven't
We have to
spent.
do it. We're just gonna have to tell the people before we hit them, we have to send them letters on it's coming.
Well, and it hadn't been until a couple of years ago that we even knew we were going to be operating the plant and fixing up the plant.
We talked about this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When we were designing this.
There was a determination as to whether you were gonna be in the water, but we were gonna be in the water
Well,
business or not.
And remember,
then-
part of the reason we decided to do it the way we're doing it is kind of year by year, incrementally issuing debt. And the reason we did that was because we wanted to see
Write it out, see what
how
happens.
this was gonna impact. And so now we see, and now we have a better basis for the decision about the next bond issue. If there is a next bond. It's not there, but.
And if we come back next year and the numbers look projections are getting down where our operating percentage of total operating expenses goes even lower, it's possible that we'd have to raise it higher.
Well, there's policy decisions to be made there. Yeah, you could raise the rates, or you could sort of do what you did with sewer and say,
You could
well, you know,
subsidize that
we
with
could
general
subsidize it for a while, you know, there's a
Right.
million different ways to do it. As long as you know you gotta do it.
And again, adding the new debt to the sewer fund, I know that's one of the things you're wanting to know, do we wanna do or not?
Yeah, and I just threw
What are
out.
kind of the positives and negatives, I mean, why do we wanna do it if it's been going along, or is it
Well, you know, I
just as a
think.
goodwill thing, or?
And I think that the discussions, the considerations that need to have there is, you know, the fairness, we have people that aren't on the system, that are paying for the system, but at the same time, you got a 10% water rate increase, and then next year it's gonna be an 8, and do you wanna, I mean.
Another
Goes on.
4 or
that-
5% sewer increase on top of that.
If I'm a council member that has to take phone calls,
Well, I mean, you know, to be a city, we have to have a sewer plant, you know, I mean.
Sure.
So
It's part of the
I
deal.
think the high school saw this coming, that's why they put artificial grass in.
Yeah, we're gonna be losing a lot of money out of them. We need a big.
Well, they never really paid for their irrigation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what-
yeah.
Yeah, they weren't, were they?
Not to bring up an old.
Not to bring up a sore subject, thank you, Mike.
Okay, so,
Well, let's tackle the sewer I mean, as a group, let's just get a consensus on how do we feel about, is there value in raising the sewer rates, or should we just continue on as we are until we get through this big spike in water rates?
That's kind of what I'd like to see.
Danny, what's your thoughts?
Well, I kind of feel that we should, I think we should go a little bit with it, not leave it the same. I think we ought to bump it up.
And Ron, you think let's just
You just want
stay the
one
course?
year.
Okay.
1 year left.
It's just
No,
like,
why?
the way the federal government has gone about taxes. If you don't take care of the problem, it gets insurmountable. So there has to be some kind of rate increase to do something, but my question is, how do we do it and include those people who are not using it to help satisfy that if they live in the city limits of DeSoto, and the city does indeed need a sewer plant?
Well,
Is there any way to do that?
That's what we've been doing with this.
That's what we're
That's
doing.
out of the general fund.
That's what we're doing, so
So
that's the
that-
question, do we carry on with the status quo where basically the sewer plant's paid for by the city at large, and we'll just carry that on rather than throwing all that debt service on the sewer users, or additional debt service on the sewer users?
That's what I'm trying to get at. I wasn't trying to say, okay, we need to pick on
The
somebody
water rate's
else.
gotta happen,
Yeah.
we're spending the money, we've gotta pay for it.
Well, there's,
I don't know, what do you pay for water out there on top of the hill? You know?
not very much. I mean,
You're on Water One, they're cheap.
I have a septic tank and I have Water One, and my every 2-month water bill is $45.
That's about what mine is.
One month
Monthly.
is about 55 or 60.
I make $64.64 working for the city, and I pay $64.73 to the city.
There you go, you're breaking even.
I can tell you, my thought is that in light of the water rate increase that we're gonna have, then don't mess with the sewer rates this year. That we carry that on, continue on another year as we have done in the past. Just an extra chunk that somebody won't have to, it'll just a little bit less sticker shock when they get their bill at the end of the month.
You wouldn't think even a 2% or something like that instead of the 4?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna make a difference in the cost, how we're gonna pay for the debt, and we're already doing it, so it's not like we need that money to maintain the, you know, the fund balance or pay, because we're already subsidizing it, so.
Yeah.
So if we do not do the new debt on sewer, does there need to be any kind of?
I think what this analysis would show, because we're assuming inflationary type increases in the budget items, it would show an inflationary type increase needed for the sewer.
But it's showing a
In-
fund balance is like 60% of the operating budget.
Well, that's true. I mean, we could just,
I mean,
you know, we could decide that fund
That
balance
fund
is
balance,
very healthy.
I would see
and-
that could roll down, you know,
Sure.
it could sustain itself for a couple of years
Sure,
without
yeah.
getting in a
Right.
critical situation.
That's a good point, yeah.
I think it's unlikely. I think those costs to operate are gonna go up as well.
Yeah, they're gonna go up, but it's not gonna, we have a significant reserve balance in the sewer fund, so even though we can afford several years of 4% inflationary increase without adversely impacting our ending balance.
I think we, very comfortable going into next year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, let's be careful with these projections. They're all very specific numbers on here, but anything beyond next year is less specific as you go. So, yeah, very comfortable next year without an increase in sewer. I think we can determine that for sure.
Well, and then, you know, the year after that, even if you add, the water will go down a tad bit, hopefully to 8%, and so even if you had to do a sewer, you know.
Yeah.
average
Even it out.
increase each year,
And in
We're gonna get
general-
some
Yeah.
crazy growth and it's all gonna work out. well.
That'd be great.
And
And
if
it-
you water user and.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, but the problem is where you're gonna grow and be able to use that water.
Well, the grocery store, right, it's gonna pay water, any development that's spurred on or growth that tags on, you know, that grocery store development. I think residential is gonna, if we just had a place for some people to build houses, some subdivisions could go in and we could see some.
We do have, we're paying $61,000 a year.
Exactly. We're about to be the owner of those.
Yeah, well, maybe, maybe.
But so, you know, I mean, I think we're poised for growth
I do
if,
too.
and we got the infrastructure, so.
We're gonna get this grocery store, and we've got a banker down there that's pushing for other things out there, and he is online to help this town grow. I meet with him once a week, and I'm telling you, what he's got come from this town is wonderful.
Mike, are you looking for a motion?
Big water user to come from?
I was just trying to get a
They had one, but they
consensus
lost it.
on where we were on the sewer stuff.
I think, I'm okay with holding off on sewer right now.
Yeah.
And then I guess we would handle it in a motion once.
So do you want a motion on the sewer to keep the same?
I don't think we would need a motion if we, or I don't know, would we? Or-
Not really. I mean, the action will be a
Be a-
fee resolution. That's-
Right, so
Yeah,
actually,
we've
so
got
it'd
kind
be
of
a
just direction from you all at this point,
Yeah.
we'll come forward
direction
with.
back.
Yeah.
The consensus, I was
Yeah.
gonna write it up as a consensus, the council is.
Consensus
Yeah.
on
Maintain sewer rates for one more year and we'll
Yeah.
revisit it in, next year, next November.
Thanks, Mike.
Water's another matter.
Yeah, let's go there.
But the way I look at it is we're spending money now for the future of the state of Kansas. The people that are paying for that water it's good for the future of this town. And it is gonna grow, we can't stop it.
But we need to push the growth, is what we need to do. We need to help it and get it going.
We're pushing it, we're doing that.
So if we look at this, the usage fee only is no good.
Yeah, right. I think,
We're gonna
yeah,
have people
let's-
on our back, our big users on our back.
I think we can all
Um,
say that. You can't throw, either of those that throw it all one way or the other really aren't
Yeah.
feasible, right? I mean, can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Oh, I think go to the bottom, the top users and the,
It's gotta be a blended thing.
Yeah,
It's gotta
yeah.
impact everybody.
I would
Mike,
agree
do you
with
have
that.
to bang it all at once? What about if you were to put like a 5% across the board?
It doesn't
Well,
allow.
we need a,
Yeah.
we need a 10% across the board.
It does it?
That's
Yeah.
kinda where
Yeah,
we're
well,
at now.
You've got.
Actually, it's more
Just
like,
taking those
like me,
usage-
it looks like I'm gonna see a 15% increase.
Yeah, if you just increase these, you know, that rate structure, each number of the rate structure by 15%, that doesn't necessarily get you, or 10%, that doesn't necessarily get you to a 10% revenue increase. You see, what I could do, if you look on this chart here, table 4 is that summary.
Right.
So this chart, the red line is the base fee increase, don't wanna do that. We also don't want to do this green line, which is only the users. So if you look at, I guess it's the purple line in there. I could make this purple line straight, just about even. I could make it just about even. I'm not sure, it looks like it's gonna wind up at about, 14 or 13% maybe, that each category would, so I could come up with something a little closer, but this, I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs, at this point.
Yeah, I thought it was a fairly flat line considering what the exercise we're going through.
Yeah, and it should be. I
It's
mean.
choking me up though.
Take a bath every other day.
Weren't you reading it over the years?
Got some Kleenexes here, Rick.
Increase the dentistry.
Right.
Right.
Just try to even out the cost of what it's
There you go. Oh, we got that leg.
I know, I see what you,
This number has to be.
Now, your
Still operate.
table 3E that you had over there, that was an increase on both the usage-free and the.
Mike.
With Danny's,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead,
Oh,
Danny.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I just
Danny-
had a question that 3E was both the usage fee and, the high usage fee and the summary of the
Yeah.
regular citizen
What-
and that came 10% right there, right? Between those two.
Yeah, all these scenarios get you
Are
a
on
10%
10%,
increase
okay.
in revenues.
All right.
What 3E does is, it's on the water, and it increases the base rate, but it also increases each one of these usage categories.
Okay.
So, that's in that yellow, I don't know if yours is in color, yeah, it should be.
Well, I got the yellow.
Yeah, so it's increasing both.
It's increasing both, yeah.
Lori, do you have a comment?
Well, Bill's question might refer to the percentage rate increase needed across the board each year, like the 10%, 8%.
Oh, okay,
6%, and
okay.
that's what he was saying, why can't we average that out? And I was explaining it to
Oh,
him that
sure.
you need to get, I believe it's because you need to get
Fund
it built
balance.
up, the fund balance built up, isn't that correct?
Yeah.
We gotta have the bump in this.
We need that shot in the arm now.
Some way to get rid of that shock.
Yeah, but we
That's-
need that shot in the arm now. in the
Right,
fund balance.
yeah. If you take 10 down here, you have to, like in 2018, I mean, we could maybe, this is about as flat as I could get it. And even at this, I had to go out to 2024 to make it rebound. But yeah, you have to kind of build this fund balance up so it doesn't dip so low, and 8% is, it's not good.
No.
Scared.
It's
That's-
not good.
that's-
But
It's
it's,
possible that could be
it's
better.
far enough
It
out
could be better.
that we
Could be
can.
better, we don't know that.
You have dry years.
It's a projection.
This is terrible to
Right.
say, you have dry years, we have great revenues.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
we'll have a drought. Or a business that comes in who uses a lot of water.
That's true.
There's the better.
Okay. I think we have consensus on something like the E,
Yeah,
right?
sounds like it.
3E.
Yeah, I'm good with 3E.
Yeah, I feel good about that.
Okay. Ron?
Yeah.
Think the best option that we.
I think it's the best
I
scenario.
don't think we'll come up with any others that are.
It's not that I feel good about it, but you have to do something. I mean, we've already spent the money.
That would be $295 per household
What's your rate in Baldwin?
increase on regular.
50%
What is the
higher.
increase then?
In this.
Well, you said 10%.
Ridiculous.
No, it wouldn't be that on the, high usage.
Well, it looks like
What's
the
that?
heavier users are going up maybe 8%.
Yeah, that's what I
8%?
said, cause it wouldn't
Yeah,
be a
under the
whole
blended
10%
scenario.
on them, it'd be like 8%.
Yeah, if you look at the summary table 4, it actually shows the percentage increase for those major users.
Table 4.
Good
Yeah.
point. No, good point.
So if you go along that bottom of the graph, Danny, you
Yeah.
can see that, the ones that are gonna get the biggest increase is the 4,000 to 5,000 gallon users.
Yeah, they're
The big
16.
ones are not gonna be real big, so we're not gonna hear from them complaining too much.
Oh, you will,
I mean, you're gonna hear it because they don't like it.
but yeah, it doesn't just slam.
Have the same rates anyway, but it's gonna be, the individuals are actually higher than they are, so. But not But because we have less, it's a lower dollar amount, it's a percentage, yeah, but it's $2, $3 instead of,
Yeah.
you know, $3,000.
Well, it'd almost be $3, $2.95,
You
so,
have to have the trash.
yeah.
Cup of coffee.
Well, mine's gonna be going up $7.50.
Yeah.
How many of those you got?
That's just when I'm.
Well, that cancels out if you go
When I'm growing
Starbucks.
tomatoes.
I
it's
gave
gonna
up
go
coffee.
$15.
That's $10 a month.
No caffeine.
That's
Well,
all I'm paying, like.
Well, then I think
Still coffee.
maybe it's a consensus on that, Rick?
I think so,
Well, that's the easiest path.
There's two of us.
so you'll bring back a, modified spend fee ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I
we'll-
heard, I'm sorry, excuse me, I heard from Councilmember McDaniel, I think it's a good idea as well. We'll work to get a letter to send out to residents as
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
informing them of
Yeah.
the reasoning and
Why we're doing it?
why we're doing it and to
Sounds
that
his
is
number on the bottom of it,
Huh?
all with questions.
Sure.
Well, you can put on the bottom of it, just take a shower every other day.
True.
We don't want that, we need people using water.
Let 'em use it.
Take 2
Yeah,
showers a
use
day.
the water so that the rates don't have to increase.
No
as
coffee
much
on
later.
Mondays.
Ooh, no, Mondays are important, Wednesdays not so much.
Hopefully you can get away with it. Fridays maybe.
There you go.
Moving on to item 4C, discuss adding a water distribution office and shop building to the water tower project.
Yes, council, this is something that Doug and I and Marshall and Dennis in the water department have been discussing since we found out we're gonna have to bug out of the township building. Marshall has kept the jetter trailer and quite a lot of his distribution parts in that building historically, and he needs to find another home for those. Right now, they're kind of scattered, the trailer's down at the sewer plant, in the sewer plant building. The rest of the fittings, some of them are at Sunflower, they're kind of scattered around, and we thought there might be an opportunity within the bond issue that we've already issued to construct a modest shop and storage area on the property that we have laid out for the water tower.
What's
Now-
left on the property down behind Engineered Air?
Behind engineered air.
Do we own a building down there?
There's the main sewer oh, are you talking about across the, let me get the map, hold up here.
I thought we didn't have a lot down there anymore.
The old sewer plant
Yeah,
is down here.
but didn't we have a building that,
There's, let me turn on the
Not
lights.
much, yeah.
We don't have much free,
not much of a building?
we don't have much
Okay.
free area down
Okay,
there.
I've never been down there, so it was just,
Grandpa was down there.
I just saw an aerial view, so I knew there was something there, but,
My dad run that for years.
oh,
That's what he had.
so there's nothing there, that's just a
Not really,
question.
yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna have this ground, it's ours, we can't pay for it for 35 years,
Well, it will cost $1.
but.
This ground will cost us $1 when we find it.
And you're talking about a modest building, you're talking like a Morton style building with concrete floors.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably put a little brick wainscot on it, just on the street side to dress it up a little bit maybe, but even with that,
Why?
to dress it up,
Why?
to be proud of it.
I look at this thing and down at the sewage plant, they've got a similar type building. And on the west side, they left that open. And they parked a Ford tractor with a mower deck and a generator and a couple other things, but it's still open to the atmosphere. And I told Mike, I'd like for him to get a price when they do this to enclose this area on the west side, put a couple doors on it, so that those things could be inside. I don't know how much more it costs. Mike said maybe 20,000 more. Well, maybe.
Well, it depends on what kind of doors you put. If you put rolling doors and just throw out like an old barn door, that's pretty
It
fairly
was just an idea,
expensive.
because I've seen that down there at the sewage plant,
Yeah, it's
that
trouble.
stuff is there, but it's still out in the atmosphere.
And if you put this open area towards the south,
He's gonna use
it makes a lot of difference too.
No.
Yeah, it would.
But we're gonna need this building.
Go ahead. Are you done?
We just wanted to.
This is at,
express the
so refresh
intent.
me, this is at 95th and,
95th and Sunflower.
Sunflower.
So it's.
And we own this property now, we control it?
No, we don't own it.
So how can we build on it now?
Well, the current water tower lease that released the 4 white water towers in it has a provision for us to acquire this 2 acres. It says Sunflower will give it to us basically for $1. We can get title to that. So I've called SRL
Okay,
and
about
mentioned to them our intent.
Exercising that option.
Yeah, we're exercising that option, and they're fine with that. The only trouble is, right now, it's the environmental review.
So this is part of that overall clearance, huh? This has to
Yeah,
be cleared.
yeah. So the way we're gonna have to do it is a long-term, an irrevocable lease until they can get the environmental clearances and transfer the title, exactly like the water plant. So that's how it'll be structured.
Yeah.
And we've started working with them on that. Of course, we won't do anything until we have title.
Is it,
And this was.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Lori, go ahead.
is it clean? I mean, is it?
There's no reason to think that anything's ever taken place.
It's grass.
Yeah, it had never
It's-
been.
it's never
But
been
not
in that
been-
area,
but-
there was a parking lot at one time, I've been told by an old man in this town, and the gravel in there is pretty thick in some spots. Not where we're gonna be, but.
Wouldn't hurt our feelings, but,
And our
yeah,
plan is
so-
to put a water tower here in the future?
yeah, this is the site for the water tower that's half of the bond issue that we issued. Yeah, this would be the site. And, I've made contact with neighbors, to look at buying, an acre or 2 from other neighbors in the area, and.
Can't get anything for a
those-
dollar, huh?
those- yeah, nothing that cheap, and they were all pretty much dead ends on the negotiation for purchase. But this is where we need the tower. It's the highest point around, it's, between our distribution system and our water treatment plant. It's a great place for a water.
And you said if there's money left over.
Yeah, so what our intent would be, if everybody's okay with the concept, we can talk about the layout, we can talk about enclosing it, when we get a little closer, but if everybody's okay with the layout, what we'll do is as we check off these items on the bond issue, as we know where we're gonna be with the cost, we can either decide to do this or not. The big item we're waiting for is the water tower cost, because that's gonna be about $1.5 million, somewhere in there. Once we know that, we'll know whether we can afford this building or not.
Okay.
Mike had another good idea for that area too, about our water that we have down to the water plant, people come in and fill in their tanks, have it right there at that location, and that'd be a pretty good place to put it.
Actually, Ron, we're thinking about not there at 95th and Sunflower, but down here 103rd and Sunflower.
103rd?
Yeah, having it there on Lexington Avenue is a lot better road than 95th or Sunflower. And this is where we had a little booster pump station, that little shed. I don't know, you probably can't see what I'm showing here. That little booster pump at the northeast corner there.
Is there
That's
enough
kind of-
area
Oh,
for
yeah,
people to
there's a-
pull
yeah,
in
right,
there
there's a little
and
shed.
get it? I mean, is there enough area there to pull in with a truck and a truck?
Well, I mean,
fill the
not
tank?
now, we'd have to build a road, we'd have to build a little turnout for it, and, of course, build the fill station.
Well, this whole area, you're gonna wanna mostly have gravel around the driveway and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that's, we have that layout there, yeah, that has a layout yard, gravel layout yard,
Right.
yeah,
With fence and flow.
yeah, fence around it. Yep,
Okay, I didn't hear any opposition, so.
okay, good, well, of course, we'll be back, once we know
If
more
there's
about the
money.
water.
Right.
If
Yeah.
there's money.
Right. Well, that's not a bad discussion to have, because if we get this water tower bid and it's $1.1 million, we got a whole bunch of money, the bonds are set up, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is not a question that we can answer. If we have money left over, we can just go pay that back into debt service, correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it works? And so these debt service numbers that we just talked about on water rates
Right.
could go
Could go
down.
down.
Right.
So that's something for a council to think about.
Right.
We need to start working on a good deal.
Right. Well, of course, we work on good deals for
Well,
everyone.
remember we talked about that. It's gonna cost us $1.3 million to refurbish the 4 water towers. This water tower is gonna cost us pretty similar in that neighborhood, so why
Yeah.
not own it?
Oh, I agree.
Let them have theirs back.
Now, are our bonds different than school bonds? general obligation bonds? Because their bonds, you have to use it like for the AstroTurf, the money that was left over, the reason that they had to build the extra schoolroom and all that was they had to use that money specifically for that. They couldn't use it for like teachers or
Correct.
anything else.
Right, you have
But
to,
our
you have to
bonds-
use it for the item issued for.
So,
We
We
can't
have-
use it for anything else.
But we don't have to, if we don't
But-
need to spend it all, we
We
can
can
I
pay,
think
go
he's
back
talking
and
about
pay
adding
off the
this, you
debt.
know, this would be part
But
of.
this-
well,
this is part of
either
the
that-
water
either that
project.
or paying back, because they weren't even allowed to pay back all the debt.
I don't remember what they said about that, though. I thought they said we could, but maybe not.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can.
I thought we
We
could.
can.
Might ask.
I am gonna touch base, that was in the staff report. I'm pretty sure that the wording of the bond would allow us to build this building. I need to confirm that with bond counsel.
Yeah.
Well, that would be in addition, like those schoolrooms would be, but
Yeah.
as far as as far as
Because it was
Paying-
improvements. It was
payments on the debt.
Yeah,
Is what I would ask.
I'm pretty sure we could pay off that debt early if there's money. I mean, every
Mhm.
bond we've ever issued is
Mhm.
like that.
Okay.
I hope this one is.
I just wondered.
Okay.
Okay. Consider bids for repair of cracks on Commerce Drive.
Yes, council, gosh, this is the last item, and I'll just stop talking. You'll remember when we talked about wrapping up the street maintenance program, we've been working on these cracks on Commerce Drive, I think, since Commerce Drive went in. The plan to repair these, the significant longitudinal or transverse cracking that we have is developed. I got a couple of bids for this work, contacted 5 or 6 different contractors and asked them if they're gonna have time to do it this year, and these were the 2 that said yes. So I have 2 bids for you here tonight. The plan is, I think I've described this before, but basically we're just gonna mill out about a 4-foot wide section, about 4 inches deep, all the way across the road, mill that out. Whatever crack is left, we'll fill that with hot crack fill. Rick took your suggestion for the Petromat over that, and then overlay the whole thing in with asphalt. Got 2 bids for that. One bid was almost $50 a foot. That was from Vance. The other bid was from Sunflower Paving at $29.90 a foot. We're estimating all these yellow little hatch marks on this plan here are cracks that you can see from the aerial view, basically, and counted them up. We're estimating about 1,800 foot of cracks. So their bid shows 2,000 feet for $59,800. I don't think I'm gonna need that. What did I suggest in my motion? I suggest awarding the project to Sunflower at the 1,800 feet, and that total just under $54,000. So,
Questions for Mike?
Yeah, where's the money gonna come from?
Is this, Mike, we're gonna, if we want to build a grocery store and we're gonna raise the railroad tracks, is it essential that we do this work now, or can we wait till next year and do it next year? Those cracks ain't gonna go away, I know it's.
well,
stuff
that's
going
true,
out there.
yeah.
My thought is, we're gonna be working on that street and have openings in and out of that location and the railroad tracks. I just,
Just the construction.
Well, I think
going
this
on it.
will take place before the asphalt plant's closed down, in the next month.
Yeah.
Right, but what he's saying is we may be tearing up all of that and getting
I
away.
don't- I mean,
Was there some storm, planning on the grocery store when they
No,
come
not
off that parking lot?
we ain't got it yet.
Well, yeah, they're gonna tie in, there's an existing storm sewer
Right.
under Commerce.
There's not a new pipe crossing Commerce, I
No,
don't believe.
no, it's the same pipe.
I go
Well,
back to-
it needs to be done, it's pitiful driving out there, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, in answer to your question, sure, it could be done next year. They won't get any better, and they're not going away.
It might get a little. Back to, Bill's question, where's the money gonna come from to pay for this?
Yeah, you'll remember when we talked about the road maintenance program, the money that's already budgeted for this year, we're gonna have, and I've accounted for this project, $50,000. And accounting for $50,000 here, we still have over $100,000 left over in that budgeted funds for this year in that fund. So that's where it come from. So at 54,000, we're still gonna have over $100,000 left in that fund. So this year's budget is what it comes from.
Okay.
Is there any kind of guarantee at all on this? Probably when they drive away?
You know, I don't know how much we have to pay to get them to guarantee it. Probably at least twice.
How deep are they gonna mill them?
4 inches.
4 inches?
Yeah.
What's the road, 4 inches?
No, it's a
probably
big
10 inch
road.
section.
Yeah, I think it's 10 to 12 in places. Yeah, I think it was built
Really?
as 10.
Yeah.
Is it overlaid?
Yeah, several times, at least
Okay.
twice.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
2 inch overlay.
I'm for doing it. I just had this little thought went through my mind about, are we gonna tear up and gonna, evidently not.
Or are we gonna be doing it twice?
Now we'll do it again in 20 years. right?
Well, I can guarantee you
There's gonna be more
that cracks will come back.
They
Four,
will.
4 inches of asphalt is not as good as 4 inches of concrete.
We can't
but,
afford that.
But 4 inches of concrete would give you 2 joints where you got 1 joint now, so then you have a cha-chink, cha-chink.
Bump,
instead
bump,
of
bump, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
What do you think, Mr. Walker?
I think we ought to do it. I mean, those are wide, deep cracks. And 90% of this isn't gonna be impacted by construction, I don't think, you know, a little bit in front of the store. Basically from what, Lexington to the store would be kind of a haul route for their construction equipment. We're gonna rebuild probably half of that with our Commerce Drive project, so I don't know how many cracks are from McDonald's to
2, 3, 4.
Pizza Hut that we might,
about 11.
but actually this might be well to have in place prior to the construction traffic getting on there, so we don't have a bigger project when the construction's done, you know, you
The
get
damage
that.
might be worse.
Right, you get that differential load from side to side on that crack, and then you get a big repair. I think it's worth pursuing, especially since we have funds that we haven't spent on, street projects, and we planned on spending $50,000 on Commerce Drive this year.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from Sunflower Paving for repairs to Commerce Drive and authorize the city administrator to sign the proposal dated October 28, 2015.
I'll second.
that.
Mike, is that just for 1,800 feet?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
We have a motion and a second to accept the proposal. Roll call, please.
Walker.
Yes?
Murdock.
Yes.
Ron McDaniel.
Yes.
Bill McDaniel.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Assuming we do not have anything to discuss in an executive session?
We do not.
Okay. Advisory reports, city administrator.
We need to schedule a workshop. We do, as a reminder, have a workshop scheduled for prior to the meeting on the 19th for, meeting with the fire board. Just as a brief update, I did talk to Chief Wim yesterday when I last updated you all after, I had attended the November meeting of the fire district. There was indication that they were going to anticipate having information from Olathe if there was going to be a proposal by November 2nd, because November 1st falls on a Sunday. Chief Wim, as of yesterday, had not heard anything and had indicated if he heard anything back, he would, as soon as he hears anything, would let me know. And talked to both Mr. McDaniel as well as Mr. Garrett, and well, I haven't talked to Mr. Garrett, sorry, but
We've heard absolutely nothing from anybody.
nothing yet. And you all meet next week,
Right.
next Tuesday evening, and I do plan to attend that meeting.
I believe I will too.
And that's 6 p.m. prior to council meeting
6
on the
p.m.
19th?
on the 19th, that's correct.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
And we do need to find a time then for, we had also, 2 weeks ago in the week, we had provided information from Sarah Ritter on update on economic development items, and she had reported that over the last several months, we've had discussions with regard to economic development discussions and, some discussions talking about priorities for housing and a request for, council workshop time to discuss housing. And we're wanting to try to find a time to look at that as well.
I'm not giving up on what I want to do. What I'd like to do is that I would like to have us meet with the businesses that have help wanted signs in their front yards all around this town, and gather them together, the leaders of, or whoever is in charge of those businesses, and ask them what their biggest problems are, why they can't hire people, and what they're gonna tell us is, they can't hire anybody because there's no place for them to live here. And I'd like to hear it out of their mouth. I mean, I could go around and talk to those people, but I feel like we need to have a summit with those people. Because one of these days, it's gonna come to play that we're gonna have apartment houses here, and we're gonna have to go back to school. And if we have that information from those businesses that pay lots of taxes in this town, it might help us when we go to them. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I think we need to have some type of summit with those people.
The chamber has done a couple summits lately with, maybe housing information. You know, and that might be an option, just to get the chamber to help us out on an issue like that.
Right, and that, I think that's those are some of the things that we need to talk about as far as looking at how we look at a strategy and looking at housing.
The EDC had, talked to some of those members, not all of them, but some of them. And the issue is the type of jobs that we have here in DeSoto don't extend out to where you can have housing unless it is low income housing. Because they're $15 an hour or less jobs.
She'll tell you, they make damn good wages there.
Well, if you get down the street to Rhetoric, they don't.
Where are they gonna buy a house in this town? Like Walter said, we need someplace to build houses. And talk to Steve Chick, he'll tell you, he's running out of places for people to build houses, because they are building houses in DeSoto. We just haven't had some big time guy come here and wanna build 50 of them, but that's coming. But the apartments are coming also.
You're right.
Can't stop it.
So we have to mix that house. We can't just have $500,000 to $1 million houses. We're gonna have some multifamily housing, and whether people like looking at it when they drive into town or not. It's just nature of the beast.
So do we want to look at trying to schedule a time for economic development discussion on housing? Sarah was requesting, sometime in December.
I think you need it at a regular, I mean, the problem with being in December is, I know they're parties, but I have a lot of nighttime commitments to go to different things through the week, so that's why I'm hesitant to add another nighttime thing, because I don't know if I will have a conflict later, that I've forgotten about with the holiday gatherings that I have to go to, that I typically go to.
So, meeting nights work for Rick, how we do it.
Well, I just, schedule it on the agenda, or,
Put it in the agenda. There's
plan
no
on
reason
us,
those things we
let's
can't
just
talk
do it in a
about.
meeting,
3rd or 17th?
and then lay out, reserve 45 minutes to discuss. Discuss.
One down.
I'm done.
No, one down.
So do we have so
3rd or the 7th.
3rd or the 7th, okay, I'll work with her on a date when they.
Discuss about the purchasing policy.
for 17, yeah. And I'll work with Sarah on it, so that we'll work around agenda. Purchasing policy. We can do the same thing with that, we can put together a lighter agenda.
And I get the only thing on.
Well, I
The only
go along
item on
with
the
what,
agenda.
Councilman Walker put together, and I'll present that.
I'll read that one.
One of the things that, on the purchasing that I'm concerned, and you know, I raised heck about it first this year, and that was the $50,000 bid that we did not get. And we talked about next year we would get that bid. And I have been reprimanded by the person that got that bid, and he don't like me now for some reason, but you know what? A lot of people in this world don't like me. So, that's one of the reasons why I wanted us to sit down and discuss that, because that needs to come to the table. I mean, I think we made a mistake. Patrick says we didn't, but I think we did. And, you know, like I said, the guy does a heck of a good job. They mow and they do the work. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think if we'd have put that contract out originally as a
You got
1
it.
year plus, an option for, say, 4 more years, that'd be one thing, but you're right, what we did was we just kept renewing without rebidding, and that, I
for
agree.
7 years.
Yeah,
And
that's.
it isn't right. And I know there's lots of people that mow grass, but maybe not, you know, maybe if the bids come in and he's not the low, I might vote for him because they do a good job.
Maybe what we look at is purchasing on the next agenda, have regular items on the 3rd and the 17th for economic development. Although we've got rate studies we need, well,
So, not, it's a fee ordinance.
yeah,
This will be on the consent
and so
agenda.
that would be,
Consent
yeah,
agenda.
it'd be a consent agenda item, so that would be, yeah.
It's just-
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's coming up that would be a big discussion.
That's what I was sitting here thinking, what,
If it has to be, it has to be. I mean,
The only thing a bid on something water
Mhm.
related.
but I can't imagine
Yeah.
anything that would be time consuming that we've got left.
How about the bid on the mowing? Do we have that in the works right now?
We are in the process of staff and putting something together. I want Ron and, Ron Creason, Doug, Doug, they're mowing internally. Ron and Jay to work on that, and Ron has been on a personal vacation for about a week now, so they're gonna get together. He's back in town tomorrow, so we've got a meeting set up on that next week to get that going, so that is in the works. So, does that sound like a plan then, to do purchasing next meeting,
On the 19th?
19?
And we're coming early.
Purchasing policy discussion on the 19th, but we'll have a workshop before that with the fire district.
Why not?
As long as you don't load the agenda too down.
That's the point, that would be, no, we won't. Okay. That work?
That's how I prefer to do it.
Okay. I believe, in the weekly I provided information. Tomorrow I do commit to having financial information to you. I apologize. I had significant computer issues last week that bled over into this week. And then Bonnie finished, October's month in, so I'm just updating that. Sales tax are a concern to me right now, and the biggest thing that I'm concerned about, because we still had another about $6,000 to $8,000 off in sales tax, and I'm trying to look at last year to this year, looking at each business, and we do get a report from the state that I'm able to look at that information. I'm not able to, we have to sign a release on that, I'm not able to share that individual business information with you all, but I'm trying to narrow the information down on that. I'm thinking that perhaps there's been a business that has not remitted their, sales taxes to the state. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what's happened there, because it's just, we had a 13% reduction in sales tax last month, and that doesn't make sense when the rest of the county is up, so continue to look at that. But we are right now in the general fund about $100,000 down on revenues over last year. But working with departments, we've got where we think we'll end the year about $219,000 less in expenditures as well. So we've accounted for that. But franchise fees on the natural gas side, seen a slight uptick with November franchise fees. Westar continues to be down. Those are really related to the weather this year. I was a little concerned about cable TV, the way it came in, but with this month, the quarterly remittance came in really well. On the upside of things, it's not an infinitesimally small amount, but transient guest tax, about $8,800 more than what we had budgeted. So that's pretty significant. We budgeted $17,000 for that fund in revenues, and we're at $25,000. So
That's good. It's good meeting his business is picking up.
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I will have that.
Which I would imagine we'll see more when you have that hotel open down in Olathe, and people that need to go to the events but don't wanna pay the money.
Don't want to pay the money, exactly.
Or late
It's
registration.
exactly, we will have that
Benefits
spill
for-
over, absolutely. And I think we're starting to see that from some of the events in that area.
Oh, that's going on.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe that is all I have.
Okay.
Wasn't there something in the paper recently about sales tax in Kansas in general overall being down there?
Yeah, down
I mean,
in
greatly
Johnson
overall.
County has been up when you look at those trends, but in the state overall, it has been down. Yeah. And at first I thought I had seen a trend that our sales taxes were down and our use taxes were up, and I thought, well, maybe that was some internet sales. Well, okay, that made some sense, but we were down on both. We also, one of the things that we do get remitted sales taxes from, you buy furniture and you have it delivered from Nebraska Furniture Mart, from Crowley, there's just, every month there are different, places. So when people buy things and have those delivered to us, we have.
About an automobile, the taxes here are high, and there's a lot of new cars go by my house every day.
Yeah,
A lot of
and those
people
come
buy new
in.
We get
cars
that
this year.
extra, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do get that.
So I've paid into that
You-
twice this year.
You've paid into that twice this
I
year,
did
yeah.
my part.
Yeah.
It's some of it, it's some of it.
My kids.
We get a portion of that,
Yeah.
we get a
Schools.
portion of that, right.
The schools and county and everybody else take a big chunk.
So, yeah, everybody gets a part of that.
Okay. Patrick.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Mike, you got anything else?
Nothing else.
All right.
He's done for the night.
All done.
Atlanta is not here, so we will go on to council comments. Bill, you want to start us tonight?
Yeah, I would like to remind staff that there was a motion made while we were waiting for the workshop to come up with a conclusion that we would give DeSoto preference. That the minutes of October 1st, 2015 have that motion in it. And that's all I have.
Okay. Lori?
I'm good.
Danny?
I got a couple of things. The traffic is still pretty bad out there in my area, and I'm still talking to a few more people about it. And,
With the trucks coming in from.
yeah, it hadn't really slowed down that much. But I understand by reading the memo that Cynthia sent out that it's supposed to fall back. And, so hopefully.
That was the indication we got, but we'll follow up.
It was supposed to
Yeah.
That Friday after you had brought that up,
Mhm.
Walter went out and counted, was it 40 cars in an hour?
Well, he wrote down 12 different trucking names.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I drove by, and in just the time it took me to drive out there and turn around, I saw 3 different trucks come in, so, yeah.
And we did have another
considerable.
complaint this week about debris, mud and gravel on the road.
Yeah.
And by the time Walter got out there, they had swept it up, but, yeah, it doesn't look like they've slowed down like they said they were going to,
Yeah.
so maybe we need to give it a call.
Construction is certainly moving along out there, they've gone vertical on that, but
Mike,
They're
have you
hauling it
seen
from
what's
that
out there
data
now?
center site, is that right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Did
You
you
seen what's out there now?
What they've done with all the
You
dirt?
know, all the, storm sewer
I saw
stuff,
the pipe show up, yeah.
was it 60-inch pipe?
Pretty big stuff. I can't measure it
There's
from
a
the road.
lot of it out there now.
Yeah.
Mike, is there any control, I mean, I assume, I had a conversation with somebody that lives out there and has seen what they've done, and what they've done is they've built up that road from the dam towards the road about as far as they can do. Now what they've done is cut back in behind there, and like where the culvert would have gone over back on the backside where Creek went through, they've pretty much filled that in. My understanding is what, from this citizen of ours, is that he's getting paid big bucks for every dump load of that, and he's
Oh,
just
yeah.
having stuff hauled in and hauled
Sure.
in. So
Yeah.
even though they say it's gonna slow down, as long as he's getting money and it's a
Right.
place to put it.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
may not slow
that's
down.
just from the data center
So-
project. There could be other projects.
So,
Yeah,
so the question is, you know, we don't have any control over them. Is there anyone that is watching what
Well, I
happens
tell you, the
downstream?
control we do have, and, you know, I think it might be time to seriously consider the safety impacts of that traffic, and maybe consider a ban on truck traffic on some of those roads. I mean, that's the only control we have, is what goes on
What
those
can
roads.
go on the roads?
Well, they're just pulling in off of 83rd and going right there, correct?
Yeah, well, they cut a little bit
How
on
many-
Cedar
How many
Creek Road.
trucks do we have coming in DeSoto to deliver
Plenty.
products? and
Right,
everything
no, that's
else?
a good
So you
point. You
gotta-
can't
Because
just
we
ban.
went
That's
through
what
that
it's
slow,
right.
you gotta be
That's
careful.
right.
I went through that.
Well, he would just cut it through his properties there anyway and go around back through. That's all he would do.
Right, I mean,
he would
the thought
find a way
was,
around.
you know, cause their entrance is actually on Cedar Creek Road, but he just cut
He would
another
just cut
road
through
up
his
here.
property.
Or even cut another
He would
entrance
just
right
cut
off
that
83rd
entrance
and
Maybe
put more
worse.
dirt over there so he
Right.
could build it up
It'd
and.
be worse.
There would be no relief.
But, you know, so far we've had good cooperation from the contractor, Kissick, that's running the data center. They've got a sweeper out there, and
Are we monitoring I guess maybe send a note to Kissick that we're monitoring the condition of our roads, and if we notice any
that's a
deterioration,
good
we
point.
will be looking to them to repair their damage to our streets.
On the
Yeah.
Achilles heel out there.
Yeah,
That's
that
definitely
might be
a
a good
concern.
thing to
That
do.
might stir their interest
I'm
in
in
finding
for
another
that.
site.
Mike, could you have KHP or sheriff run scales out there and see if they're overweight for this?
all those, yeah. all
You could,
those-
but
called
that's,
agitation.
no. But you gotta do it back in Lenexa where there's a place for them to pull over.
Yeah, you know, right. There's no place there.
I mean, you don't wanna have, because the DOT will stop you right in the middle of the road.
Has anybody heard of the trucks coming down Cedar Creek and then out 83rd recently? Cause I was promised that would stop. They're all
I
coming
haven't,
from
yeah,
Lenexa, so,
Yeah,
okay, that's one thing that happened.
okay.
Oh, yeah, we can-
What's next, Danny? What else you got?
Oh, I was gonna ask Cynthia, how, I know you said the dog kennel, the compound area was done, I know that we spent over $1,500 last month. This month, we had another $524, on this last agenda that we just approved. Just wanted to know, are we kinda now where we got it done, or are we still having to add things, or what's the deal?
It is complete, and we came in, and I could get, an accounting on that, we came in just under the $45,000 budget amount. I can get that,
Is that something you put up tomorrow in your
absolutely.
weekly or?
We might have to have a dog kennel.
I know we need a
party.
tour, yeah, right, we need
We
a.
can,
An open
we can
dog
do
Ribbon
that.
cutting.
We can do that, we can
Okay,
bring
so,
all the
Puppies down.
we can have a lunch buddy.
So we can probably say that probably some of this now will slow down on, that side of the budget, right? These extra fees.
Well, those were part of the budgeted items already.
That was budgeted, it was, yeah.
That was already part of the budget.
Well, I'm just talking about the stuff we just spent, another $500 that we just passed just a few minutes ago. And last week was over 1,500, so I'm just saying, we should be getting pretty close to done out there where we're not seeing it every week on the pay scale.
Right.
Well, there was $45,000, but.
Yeah.
Well,
so there-
yeah, I know that, but,
Only
I
dog
understand that. I'm just saying all these little extras that are coming in.
Yeah, the only thing you might see is anything related to the demolition, and we did most of that in-house.
Oh, okay.
And now there's some electrical work in moving there was an electrical pole, and we are moving that. attached to that building. That building has been demolished at the street side on Shawnee. The old animal.
Oh, the old shelter.
The old pound, and
Okay.
it is down, and now we're in the process of, switching over the, power and electrical there, and moving that, so that pole's out of the way. So
Thought
it's
they
not
said at one
obstruction.
time we couldn't move that pole that was down there by that kennel.
Not while it was attached to the kennel.
Okay.
It's the big poles with
The,
big-
the
with
transformers we can't
transmission
move,
lines.
transmission
okay.
lines we can't move, the small,
Okay.
we can't,
Okay.
we can't.
What-
That's all I have,
Okay,
Rick, thank
thank
you.
you, Dan. Ron?
I have only one thing. The, land that, we leased for, salt and water storage parks, is it clear?
It is clear. I have not been out there. It was supposed to have been cleared, over the weekend. We are out of there. We have negotiated with them. We will not be paying them anything to keep the salt storage there through the end of the year.
The propane tank,
Yes,
is it gone?
yes.
And, the parts that were inside the building, are they gone?
Yes.
My question, and my last question is this: do the fences belong to the city of DeSoto? The gates, I mean?
That,
I'd like that to be found out. If those are ours, we need to take them. Unless we can trade the Friends of the
Well-
Call for staying there.
we'll leave the gate, we'll leave the gates there. Well, I guess they're in the Evo, we got the salt there. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. I don't have anything, so I would,
I
make a motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
A second. your
I meant to
motion.
say though that the Christmas lights look nice,
They do,
Yeah.
they do.
And
It's a little, I'm a little humbug though, and so I think it's a little early for all of it, but.
It is exceptionally early, I do apologize for that, but they were up, we had, that's a
When the
cost
equipment's
savings.
here, you
When the
take
equipment's here, we were
advantage of
taking
it.
advantage of that, and there was a safety issue of installing this pigtail,
So if
Yeah,
you're in
but-
the spirit though of Christmas, we've got the Christmas holiday decorations at Harvest.
Perfect.
All in favor of adjourning, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, we're